Hello everyone. In an earlier clip you saw that we went hobby shop hunting in El Paso and I bought a model there. The Ferengi Marauder from Macro Trek. Okay, escort fighter included. It says highly detailed resin kit, 1/400 scale, over 15 inches long, full color decals included. Alright, well, we're going to do an out-of-box review of this kit, simply because I'm going to let everyone see what it is. I paid $35 for it. They were trying to sell it for $70. He offered it to me for half price. I jumped on that. Someone's going to offer me a resin kit for $35. He let me look at it first, too. Now, I've already taken part of it out of the box. It's right here. Okay. Now, this is a Ferengi Marauder, not a Rengi Marauder. They just couldn't call it Ferengi without having some issues. We're going to talk about this kit. Details are good. Look pretty crisp, but it has a few issues here and there. And I've already looked it over really well 5 or 6 times, so we're going to talk about these issues. We're going to talk about some other things too. Okay? Now, some of you may recognize this. You can get this in the Adversary set, the Star Trek Adversary set. That set has a Romulan warbird in it and a Klingon bird of prey. They're all in scale with each other. I want to say the 1/3200 scale. That model's 3 inches long. That's probably about the size of this alone. Now, like all resin models, there's some issues with this kit. There's always issues with a resin model. I've only come across 1 or 2 that had 0 issues. And this one's got some zingers. Okay? But for 35 bucks, you're not going to complain. First off, the back half is hollow. If that was solid resin, this thing would weigh a ton. Now, that's happiness because I want to like this kit. Okay? The sad part is the head of it is not hollow. And this is where the fighter goes. That's not really a fighter, it's a landing craft. But anyhow, that's where the fighter goes. Now, I'll get the other parts out of the box in a second, and they don't all fit very well. First thing we're going to talk about, whenever you get a resin kit, mold release. This thing has got one oily sheen to the surface. You can see it in the reflection of the lights. Okay? I mean, it's got a lot of oil on it. That's mold release. That's going to have to be cleaned out. The other thing that comes with resin kits is warping. There's some warping to this model. I don't know how long this has sat on their shelf. He told me they've had it for 3 or 4 years. Okay? Probably someone came in and traded it for something, most likely. Because I can't see a hobby shop buying this and putting it on their shelf. Third thing you're going to have is voids. There's always going to be voids in a resin kit. And the location of the voids make one heck of a difference on whether the model is easy or hard. I've got a couple of resin kits in here that were done by high quality people. And there's no voids. Absolutely not one. Okay? You know those kits as soon as you open them. You can see how pristine the resin is. This resin, lots of voids. Let me get the rest of the parts out and we'll go over each part in a detailed way. First, another sign that this is a really old kit. This stuff, I don't know if you see that, but it had a tractor feed to the paper feed in it. And the type paper, this is computer paper that was shredded from long, long, long ago. Okay? Very long time ago. There's the bottom part, the cover up the bottom. 3 extra parts, directions, and decals in a Ziploc baggie. That's a bonus because a lot of resin model kits don't even have directions. There's the bonus fighter they're talking about, which is really a landing craft. I did some research. This thing actually existed in one of the Star Trek episodes. There's the base. Don't you just love this tiny little base to hold that big model? Never would work. I think that's everything in the box, yeah. I bet if I looked at this paper, I could probably find a date somewhere to tell you when this thing was made. But I can tell you, this is like 1990, early or mid 1990 by the just look of this paper. Okay, and the way it was shredded. Oh yeah, I'm sure I could track it down. We're not going to, because I don't want to cause issues with privacy for whoever made the kit. Okay? Oh yeah, there's a date in there for sure. But anyhow, let's set that aside. Let's look at the parts themselves. Okay? Now, we'll talk about the parts in the bag first, because that's easiest. We're going to do one of my world famous zoom ins. And then zoom out and zoom in a few times just to make sure it's in right, you know. This is what General Splatton made fun of me for. Okay, first, this part here is the torpedo emitter that goes on the top of the ship. And then we've got these two claw things that go on the side. From what I read, those are disruptor arrays, I guess. Now, the decals that came with the kit, these aren't great. They are stickers. You heard me right. They are stickers. So it looks to me like I'm going to be making some custom decals instead of these. That's not really a big deal, and it's not hard to do. Print them on white decal film. They'll be just fine, especially since they have white in them. Okay? The directions, really basic and easy. We'll zoom out a little bit so you guys can see. Oop, that's not zoom out. Love the close-up of the remote, right? Zoom out a little bit so you guys can see the directions. Isn't a lot to it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces and a stand. And yeah, there's a metal rod, a very bent metal rod for the stand. Tiny, tiny metal rod right there. You know, kit has a lot of flash on it. You can see the flash on that part. You can see the flash on the edge of this part. But it comes off fairly easily. I'm not worried about it. It's going to be one other thing we're going to talk about in a minute. Directions are pretty simple. Use super glue. It says, model must be cleaned with lacquer thinner or a strong cleaner like Commodore Ajax. I can believe that, looking at that mold release on there. Sand off the mold seams and fill the small imperfections with green putty. Use super glue, type of cement to assemble. If warping occurs, run some hot tap water over the area to soften. Hold the model in the proper setting and cool it down in cold water. Spray a thin coat of primer and sand with 400 grit sandpaper. After painting your model, apply the peel and stick decals. Just cut them out before you peel them off. That's the entire directions for the model. Trim and fit lower hole to upper hole. Zap-a-gap works great. Decal locations. Pre-drill the stand hole. Attach laser cannons. Attach the deflector. That's not a deflector. Do not glue the fighter, so you can remove the fighter. I mean, I read the entire directions. Okay? Some resin kits don't even come with directions, so I think that's a bonus there. We've already looked at the detail of what's in this bag, so I'm going to put it away. What's in the bag looks like it's molded fairly well. So I'm not going to worry about those parts too much. Now we're going to go to the fighter next. Okay? So we're going to do a zoom in. What they call the fighter in this kit is what I read on Memory Alpha was that it was a landing craft, because it's far too big to be a fighter. You know, 1/400 scale. This thing is, no, 1/1000 scale. It said 1/400 on the box. I checked. It's 1/1000 scale. They just had to post it as something other it was, so Star Trek didn't sue them. Okay? Bad part right there is that nub on the end of this thing. It's one heck of a mold nub. And there's a couple, well, no, that's actually molded in detail. It's really not that badly cast. There's absolutely no way to light this thing. It'll be impossible to light it. Okay? Now, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. That goes in here. Like that. Now, if I were to use some magnets, that's just going to snap right in there. I can embed a magnet or a piece of metal in this, so it just hold right up in there. But again, at 1/1000 scale, This thing's far too large. At 1/1000 scale, a centimeter is 10 meters. If I got that right? Yes. The centimeter is 10 meters. So, let me get a ruler and take a look at this thing. Oh! Did not mean to kick the camera like that. This is going to be a long video clip. This thing is about 100 meters long. That's not a fighter. Okay. Now, we got a good look at the a landing assault craft. Alright. Doesn't look like it's molded badly. It's designed fairly well. Now we're going to look at the bottom panel on this thing. Now, the bottom panel doesn't appear to have any voids. It's just warped. That's mold release. It's just warped real bad. But it does not appear to have any voids that are visible on this side. Now, I get the feeling someone bought this and then gave up because there was some sanding done on this side. I really don't think this looks like this naturally. I really doubt it came out of the mold that way. So it looks like someone looked at it and said, no, I'm over my head, and just quit. That's what it looks like to me. Because that's resin, alright. No doubt of it. And again, it feels like it's warped. Now let's look at the main body itself. Starting on the underside. Again, you can see we got some fairly good details on this thing. Alright. Yeah, that's a good nick right there. You don't feel too much of it with your hands. The bad part, though, is the mold line that's running right along here. That's not going to be a fun mold line to remove. And just not going to be at all. When you look at the head of this thing, from the underside, it's in good shape. Okay. I think that's a void right there. Yeah, it's a void. Now we flip her. Look at the top half. Now we start getting to the bad spot. Yes, you can see that void right there. Okay? And the light you're seeing through there is fine. It's supposed to be like that. No real voids there. There's some divots and dimples right in here. And if I remember right, there's a bad dimple in there. One spot. Oh yeah. There's a real bad dimple right there. You can see it. You can see all the voids in this thing. Filling voids on resin kits isn't that bad. It's like seam filling. Instead of a lot of seam filling, you have a lot of void filling. Some Mr. Surfacer 500, some Bondo spot putty, and you'll fill those voids right up. There's a couple of other bad voids. There's one right here where my finger is. Almost goes all the way through. If I poke hard at it, it will go all the way through. There's a bad spot right here on the inside, but not on the outside. Okay? Yeah, there's a bad one. You can see it up there. Right there. There's a real bad one on one of these mesh spots where it actually goes all the way through. Through there. One spot. I was trying to find it. It's in one of these. Yeah, it's this one right here. It's up. It's in this corner right here. It goes all the way through. If I'm going to build this, these are lit. I'm going to cut these out anyhow and replace it with a brass mesh, because that'll just look really sharp to cut that out and replace that with a brass mesh. Now, speaking of lighting, since the back half of this is hollow, lighting the back half of this will be really easy. My big concern is the seam line along here. Okay? If I'm going to light this, I'm going to have to cut every single one of these out and replace them with either clear styrene or something. It can be frosted. If I can get that smoothed out and worked out well enough without disturbing the natural color of the plastic, they're supposed to be, no, they're supposed to be white, so they're going to have to go. That's kind of troublesome because that might actually hurt the structural integrity of the model some. So I'll have to watch it if I cut those out. And again, I'm going to have to replace them with something that's the exact same shape. So that will be a challenging part to lighting this. The other challenge will be lighting the front half of the ship. Because, see this triangular part right here? That's lit. This triangular part over here on this side is lit up as well. And there's a whole bunch of windows right in here and right across here. And I would have to drill all the way through this thick body of resin at the front of this. I have to drill all the way through this back here to where the scout ship goes. And then carve a channel through there in some thin resin to begin with. Because I don't know if you guys can see it, but you can see the light shining through that resin, which means it's kind of thin. Just to get my fiber optics up in there, because I'd have to use fiber on that. There's going to be no doing anything else. So the scout ship might end up being non-removable. It might just get glued in there so I have room to run wiring through. Fiber through back in here, or just cave out the scout ship and put my fiber cans in there, because that might have to happen. Not only that, I have to find a drill bit long enough to reach basically from here to here of 0.5 millimeters. Yeah, some of you are like, oh, that's going to be hard to do. But all in all, I'm not disappointed at this. For the price point I paid for it, I mean, $35? This is a most outstanding model for $35. So, I don't know when I'll get to building it, probably sometime soon. Okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I will talk to you later. Everyone, I forgot one thing to show you how these two parts fit together. This goes in here, and if this is a styrene model, it would be wonderful and we'd be done. But you can tell they don't fit at all. They don't sit down in there, nothing. There's going to have to be a lot of sanding, some warp fitting issues, all sorts of fun with this. So this part don't fit in this part, lots of work. Anyhow, hope you enjoyed the review. I will talk to you later.